When you look back at the romantic storylines I was part of in WWE, there were quite a few moments that stood out, especially the ones where I had to go all in with the acting. There was that intense kiss with AJ Lee. Yeah, that one was pretty wild. I didn't hold anything back. It was full on. Then there were other moments with Lana, Vickie Guerrero, Summer Rae, and even Maria. I've probably missed a few, but at one point, I started to feel like this had become part of my role in the company. It seemed like Vince McMahon enjoyed my performances but didn't necessarily see me as a world champion. So instead of title opportunities, my reward, so to speak, was getting those on-screen romantic angles. I honestly think that's how he viewed it. Like, he's too small to be a world champion, but he gets to be the guy who kisses the women on TV. It's funny, because while that might sound glamorous from the outside, the truth is, it's one of the most awkward things to do in front of cameras. You've got producers, camera operators, crew, and sometimes your scene partner's real-life significant other watching nearby. It's not remotely romantic. It's just part of performing your character and trying to make them look cool or interesting. In the wrestling business, these storylines often serve as character rewards. Not titles, but visibility, story depth, and moments that get people talking. So when the boss says, "You're not getting the championship, but you're going to have this big on-screen moment," you take it. I'd just tell myself, okay, fine. If I'm not winning the match, at least the crowd will remember this. It's weird, but that's how entertainment works sometimes. Working with AJ, or even with Vickie, was always interesting because every one of them had a different kind of energy. With Vickie Guerrero, especially, she was just amazing to work with, such a sweetheart in real life. But my God, she got booed out of arenas. We once did a live segment with John Cena in a Texas college town. Can't even remember exactly where. And the crowd was so loud, so hostile toward her, that she couldn't even speak. I was standing right next to her, and even with the microphone, I couldn't hear a single word she said because the crowd noise was that overpowering. It got so bad that we had to call an audible on the spot. She was supposed to deliver a promo and hit certain lines before the match started, but the audience completely hijacked it. So we just went to commercial early, cut her talking points, and extended the match into 2 segments instead of 1. Normally, I'm the guy whose match gets cut when time runs short, so in that moment, I was thinking, oh man, whoever's next after us is getting bumped, and that sucks for them. But at the same time, you can't fight the energy of a live crowd. You have to ride the wave. Once I accepted that, we went out and just made the most of it. Vickie always asked afterward, "Do people really hate me that much?" And I'd tell her, "No, it's the opposite. You're so good at your job that they can't stand you." That's the highest compliment in wrestling, really. But those moments, like when we were making out on TV, my mom would see them and call me like, "What on earth are you doing with that woman?" And I'd have to explain, "Mom, she's actually really sweet, it's just part of the act." It always looked wild on TV, but backstage, it was just work, awkward, professional, and sometimes hilarious. When we did those scenes, especially with AJ, Vince wanted it to look real. He used, let's just say, some very colorful language to describe how far he wanted us to take it. So AJ and I would look at each other like, "Okay, let's do it right." Before any of that, I always made sure to ask, "Are you okay with this? Are you comfortable?" Because the most important thing is that both people are on the same page. Once we were, we went for it, really committed to making it look believable. We wanted the people backstage to say, "Whoa, that was too much," because that's when you know you've hit the mark. Some of the strangest moments came when we had to practice those scenes. I remember the one with Lana. That was particularly awkward. They brought us into this tiny room, barely the size of a table, with a few producers watching. Her husband, who's also my friend, was sitting there too. Imagine having to act out a passionate scene while your buddy and your bosses are sitting there analyzing it like a rehearsal. I remember thinking, this is so uncomfortable. He even told me afterward, that was terrible. And I was like, yeah, I know. Because this is super awkward. But I promised him, once the cameras rolled, I'd deliver exactly what they wanted. I always said, if you want the big dramatic stuff, I can do that. If you want to tone it down, I can do that too. And again, I always double-checked that the women I was working with, Lana, AJ, Maria, were all completely fine with everything we were about to do. Consent and comfort were always number one for me. I took pride in being a professional, even if the scenes were, well, kind of ridiculous. I'd joke, "I'm not doing this because I'm some kind of creep. This is just part of the job." So we'd go out there and give it everything, because you never know when your next big chance might come. At that time, I had the money in the bank briefcase, but even then, you never know if that's going to turn into a real title win or just another segment. So I always told myself, if this is my shot to stand out, I'm not going to waste it. And the funny thing is, the first time we did the big over-the-top kiss, Vince was thrilled. He said, "That's exactly what I wanted." It was like getting a weird kind of compliment. But then, a few weeks later, we pushed it even further. Hair pulling, exaggerated movements, and finally, he said, "Okay, now that's too much. Tone it down a little." And honestly, that was a relief. At least now I knew where the line was. We finally found that balance between over the top and believable. For me, the motivation was always simple. If I'm not going to win the match, at least I can create a moment people remember. If I'm going to lose or get hit with the briefcase or whatever, I want to make sure there's still something about the story that sticks. Something that gives my character weight, something that gets a real reaction from the audience. Whether they're booing or cheering doesn't matter. What matters is that they feel something. That's what we're there to do. Make people care, even if it's through something gross, funny, or just awkward. It's all part of the show, and if people are talking about it afterward, then it did its job. That's how I've always seen those moments. Not as rewards or punishments, but as opportunities to entertain, to make the crowd react, and to leave a mark, even in the weirdest ways possible.